Looks like the Satori botnet's picked up a few new tricks, namely taking over crypto miners.
So Matt, I hear you've got a new interesting story about the Satori botnet.
Yeah, this one is pretty interesting. It's the culmination of research by a couple of different research groups, SANS ISC, Chihu 360, and Grey Noise. And they all observed that the Satori botnet, which is one of those offshoots of Mirai, had started scanning on port 3333. Now, SANS took the tack of trying to take a look at the packets that were actually being sent and reverse engineer what the attack is based on that. Others were able to take a look at the sources of the traffic. Others took a look to see if there were any vulnerabilities existing on that port. That port is usually related to the Claymore mining software, which is like a dual-purpose miner for different cryptocurrencies. And the bug itself is that there is a specific set of calls you can use. One of them allows you to specify like a reboot.bat file, which is the next time this device reboots, reboot.bat gets run. Whatever's in there runs. The other one is reboot the device. So between the two of those two, what you've got is command execution on the box. So what the attackers were doing, scanning the internet for these boxes, when they find one, pushing up a special reboot.bat, rebooting the box, and when it restarted, it repointed the mining device's efforts towards a different pool under a different address controlled by the attacker. So whatever work was being done, the attacker now profits.
Instead of it normally being used for doing DDoS attacks against other hosts on the network, it is now taken on a new flavor which allows them to possibly bring in some money.
It's pretty simple, pretty smart. So what you can do about it is, if you're running the Claymore miner, you should update. I mean, they're at 10.0, and I think this is in version 7.3 and beforehand. So updating is one option. Another option is to configure it so that this RPC port is no longer available, or to block it from the internet. I mean, really, in general, you shouldn't be exposing these kinds of no-auth, high-privilege ports to the internet in the first place. But if you're somebody who mines for cryptocurrency, it might be a good time to just take a look at the way that you're running your operation and make sure that nothing is exposed. What's interesting as well is that there was a vulnerability in GPON routers, I think last week and the week before. Yep. And I think it was the guys from Grey Noise figured out that the sources for this scanning were from a population in Mexico, a very specific provider who happened to run those GPON routers. This seems like this is another step in the building out of the Satori botnet. They get these GPON routers, and then they use them and the high bandwidth that they've got to start scanning for even other vulnerabilities. So this is probably, part of this ongoing cycle of develop a vuln and then push it out to all of the botnet and build a new, build out the platform a little more.
We're basically right now seeing an evolution of botnets. Now, before, when we're thinking about botnets, we were thinking maybe about identity theft, DDoS attacks, but now we can add, cryptocurrency mining or exploiting these types of things to the list. I can't believe they have such an important port exposed. It's like, I guess you put your cash in a bag, so you're at the gold mine, you're digging your cryptocurrency, and now you give it to a courier to deliver to wherever, except some other courier kidnapped your courier, right, and is now delivering it to the lair of the bad guys. That's pretty much what can happen here. Right. It's amazing. You would never do that in real life. Like in real life, if you were actually holding the currency, you wouldn't just be so lax with your security measures.
You take it all the way to the bank.
Yeah, you take it there yourself.
The thing that impresses me the most about it is that most people won't even notice the difference. Like if you're not looking at your traffic, your miner is still chugging ahead, whatever stats you're gathering on is like, oh yeah, it sure is working really hard. But you're not seeing any of the benefit. And it just sort of silently changes in the background. Interesting attack, effective. There is a patch out for it if you're running the Claymore miner, and if you're running that miner, patch.
You got to make sure your stuff is secure when you're hosting it. Take all the ports that you don't want exposed out, do an assessment, maybe scan your own services, and then shut down the ports that don't need to be accessed.